Welcome to day 2 of the Lost Caverns of IXALAN set review, and there have been a couple of cards that have been added in. I thought we were going to get the full list today, but it looks like maybe we're still missing a couple. But the ones that have been filled in, we'll catch up on that real quick. So the first one that got added in was a black common called Deadweight, which was an enchantment for 1 black. And the enchanted creature gets -2/-2. So generally I like these. I mean, it's sorcery speed, it's not instant speed, so I'm gonna give this one a C. This is a good example of the X2 hate in the set, right? So like if they play that 5/2 that for 5 in black and you hit it with this Deadweight, then you're trading up a lot in value, right? And then we've had a couple of flyers that we were wondering about, like the 3/2 flash, that get worse. The 2 toughness, more expensive than 2 toughness creatures, are ideal to hit with Deadweight so that you can gain value on your opponent. Okay, the first red card of the set review is a Braid. We've seen this one before. It is an instant common for 2 that either deals 3 damage to a target creature or destroys target artifact. I think this one's going to be even better than it usually is, and a Braid is fantastic, right? It's we've got a fair amount of artifacts that are going to be interesting to hit, and a Braid dealing 3 damage for 2 at instant speed is fantastic. So this one seems like an easy B. Belligerent Yearling. See our dinosaur. I think Gruul is probably going to be the most dino-centric archetype. So this is we've got a 3/2 for 2, good stat, and it's got trample, so lots of good things here. Overstatted 2/2 uncommon. Whenever another dinosaur enters the battlefield under your control, you may have Belligerent Yearling's base power become equal to that creature's power until end of turn. So it's a 3/2 with trample that if you play like a 4-power dinosaur, it just becomes a 4/2 with trample. Yeah, this seems like an above average uncommon. I will be looking to try to find these for sure. I'll give that one a B. Alright, Bone Horde Dracosaur. Another dinosaur, 3 of anything double pip red. This one's a mythic dinosaur dragon. 5/5 flying first strike. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top 2 cards of your library. And oh, sorry. Distractions. Okay. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top 2 cards of your library. You may play them this turn. If you exiled a land card this way, create a 3/1 red dinosaur creature token. And if you exiled a non-land card this way, create a treasure token. Whoa. Damn, it gives you dig and the treasure to play them, and if you hit lands, it gives you a 3/1 dinosaur creature for more synergies. And it's a 5/5 flyer for 5. Yeah, I will give this one an A. That's looking pretty spicy to me. Alright. Brass's Tunnel Grinder is 2 of anything and a red for legendary artifact. Most of the artifacts we've seen have been kind of doing a 1x. This one's a little bit more expensive. When Brass's Tunnel Grinder enters the battlefield, discard any number of cards, then draw that many +1. Nice. At the beginning of your end step, if you descended this turn, put a boar counter on Brass Tunnel Grinder. Then if there are 3 or more boar counters on it, remove those counters and transform it. So you're going to be able to descend relatively easily just from this ETB, right? Because Descended doesn't care if you are discarding those permanent cards into your graveyards from your hand. They can be from anywhere. So this looks pretty good to discard like 2 or 3 lands that are kind of extra later in the game. Not sure I'm going to be really doing this on turn 3. But maybe. It depends on how good the transformation is. And it switches into Tekuklon the Searing Rift. And this legendary cave land taps for 1 red. And whenever you cast a permanent spell using mana produced by Tekutlan the Searing Rift, discover X, where X is that spell's mana value. Wow. Okay. So this is kind of like Discover X is going to play a lot like Cascade, where but even better because if you hit like a counter spell, you can just put it into your hand. Well, it's you can't hit counter spells, but permanents, right? And if you descend into or if you discover into a permanent that you don't want to play, you can put it into your hand. So this is pretty cool. Being able to give all of your stuff Discover X, I like that. So yeah, maybe you do want to just try to get this, play it on turn 3 and just try to get it to flip as soon as possible, because that is every one of your cards starts becoming a 2-for-1. And the Discover mechanic is going to be interesting because it's going to be detrimental to put 1-drops in your deck. So the more that you're leaning into like 3, if your 3-drops are a little bit more, common than your 2-drops, then I think this goes up in value. But this one, the Discover mechanic, is going to be one that you like. We're going to have to play the set to really have a final say in how consistently it feels to hit your good cards. But this is pretty good, and the fact that like when it transforms, when it exiles, you can immediately tap it. So this not only is like, if you flip it, you get a red that you can use, right? So there's a couple of cards that transform and immediately tap for mana, and so that's going to give some really good like mid-range ramp. And the Discover mechanic in and of itself is going to raise the question about how to optimize your curve. So very excited to see how this one plays out. Cool. Now we've got Breaches. Epic name for a goblin pirate. Breaches, Eager Pillager. A 3/3 for 3, decent stat block with first strike. Legendary, whenever a pirate you control attacks, choose one that hasn't been chosen this turn. Create a treasure token. Target creature can't block this turn. Or exile the top card of your library. You may play it this turn. Wow, I like this, right? I was wondering if the pirate theme was going to be kind of tempo-y, and I think it is, right? So being able to ramp or remove a blocker for a 3/3 first striker, because you hopefully are playing a pirate on turn 2 with this card. I like this one a lot, and maybe even a pirate on turn 1, right? Because we saw the 1-cost pirate Siren in blue at uncommon. So this one seems like one that I'm going to be happy to open up. I'll give this one a B. Oh, maybe I skipped on giving this an actual grade. The Discover mechanic, I got ranting on about that. So it's a 3. It's going to take a little bit of a build around. I don't think it's an A, but I do think giving everything Cascade in your deck is pretty good. Let's give it a B as well. So, hey Cowboy, how you doing? Trying to, I think I'm still missing some of the cards on Scryfall. I don't think they're all revealed. Glad to hear you're doing well. Calamitous Cave-In. Sorcery at uncommon for 3 and a red. It deals X damage to each creature and each planeswalker, where X is the number of caves you control, plus the number of cave cards in your graveyard. Okay, so we've actually seen, so in every color so far, there's been a cave-specific card. And a 4-cost Wrath, if you're heavily leaning into the cave thing, could be pretty good. I'm going to give this one a C, though, just because, like, it's a B if you're doing the cave thing, but if you're not doing the cave thing, then this does nothing, right? Like, if you have no caves, it could even be a D, right? But I think I'll start this one out with a C just because Wraths, I do tend to really, really love Wraths, right? If you can wipe your opponent's board while you're storing up your stuff, it can just win you the game outright. All right. Curator of Sun's Creation, a 3/3 for 4. So we've got a Hill Giant at uncommon. And whenever you discover again for the same value. This ability triggers only once each turn. Wow, okay, so leaning heavily into the discover mechanic. And I still don't know how good the discover mechanic is going to be. I'm going to give this one a C, just because a 3/3 for 4 is not particularly good. But if you have a lot of discover synergies, like 7, in your deck, being able to just double up on your discovery is pretty decent. But you know, this can get just destroyed by an abrade, right? And then it's just dead. So yeah, you're not going to get like the discover immediately the turn that you play it. I don't think there's anything that attacks and triggers a discover. Yeah, but I think that if you can even just get one additional discover off of it, it's okay. I don't think it's amazing, but I still like I still don't know how to feel about discover, because being able to, like, most of the discover is 4/3 or less. It's going to be kind of like good if you're in a go wide situation and you're just trying to overwhelm your opponent, because we saw that there's the creature that gives +2/+1 in white, which I gave a pretty bad grade, but maybe it should go up if discover is really good at spamming onto the board, right? So if this sets up getting 2 more cards into play, then that's pretty good. So my bet is that it's a C overall and a B specifically in the discover deck, which not exactly sure which archetype is the discover deck yet. We've seen a fair amount of discover. Maybe red-white is discover? Hard to say. Alright, and we've got our second equipment of the set. We've got the diamond pickaxe, and it's indestructible. An indestructible artifact equipment for 1. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has, whenever this creature attacks, create a treasure token. And then the equip cost is 2. So that's pretty good. When the creature deals damage to create the treasure, that's a little bit worse. But being able to create a treasure token every time that you attack means that, like, technically the equip cost for this is 1 because you get the treasure back. And the fact that it's indestructible makes me think of, like, oh, well, if you use the blue enchantment that animates an artifact, you could have a 5/4 indestructible haste on turn 3, and that's appealing. So I'm not sure. We've seen. I'm trying to remember. There was an equipment that was like this back a couple of sets, which was pretty good if you were playing it in an invasive deck, right? Like if you have a lot of flyers, if you have a lot of menace, but that was kind of like because it needed to deal damage to create the treasure token. So the fact that this does it when it attacks, like, I'll give this a C. I don't think it's going to go in every deck, but like if you're going to run an equipment, like, it's decent, which is nice because a lot of the equipments have generally been kind of bad. Whoa, we got ourselves a dinosaur gnome. Bridging the gap. Alright, we got a 4/3 for 4 for a common. 4/3 menace for 4. Ooh. When Dinotomaton enters the battlefield, target creature you control gains menace until end of turn. Oh my. Okay, yeah, this one's got some heat. I like a 4/3 for 4 with menace. That's a lot of pressure. And then being able to give something else menace as well can just, like, really steamroll your opponent. And the fact that this is a common? Oh man. Yeah, I like this. I like this a lot. I'm gonna give this one a B. I think this is one of the better commons that we've seen so far. Especially in a go wide strategy with discover. Menace, you just can make it so it's like, I don't care what you block. Whatever you block is not enough to live. Alright, so we're seeing some more equipment. Dire Flail coming in at rare. We get a equipped creature gets +2/+0, and its equip cost is 1. Oh my god! Is it? I mean, like that's like a bone splitter, right? Wasn't that a +2/+0 then equip 1? There's a colorless, so we've got a red bone splitter, and with additional stuff. Bone splitter itself was good enough, right? Like good enough for me to give that an A. And then this transforms if you craft it with an artifact and pay 3 double pip red into Dire Blunderbuss. And equipped creature gets +3/+0 and has whenever this creature attacks, you may sacrifice an artifact other than Dire Blunderbuss. When you do, this creature deals damage equal to its power to target creature. Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. And then it's got an equip cost of 1. Holy cow. All right, I'm giving this one an A. I'm definitely gonna run that one. Holy cow! Especially we've seen a lot of tokens already, so Bone Splitter just works well if you have a bunch of little 1/1s that you can make into 3/1, or yeah, I guess in this case make into 4/1s, and then the fact that you can sacrifice like the enter the battlefield artifacts that are just laying around in the set. Or map tokens or whatever, treasure tokens, and be able to deal the 3 or 4 damage off of a 1/1 is huge, right? That's insane. I know it's an equipment, but like, it's still a pretty impressive equipment. Alright, Dowsing Device. We've got an uncommon artifact for 1 in red, so fitting the theme of 1x for the artifacts. When Dowsing Device or another artifact enters the battlefield under your control, up to 1 target creature you control gets +1/+0 and gains haste until end of turn. Then transform Dowsing Device if you control 4 or more artifacts. Okay, I was thinking that the artifact-heavy strategy was going to be in white-blue in Azorius. So this is interesting. And I guess if we've seen a color in 4 out of the 5 so far, maybe artifacts are just ubiquitous, right? Maybe they're just everything. And before it flips, you're still giving everything +1/+0 in haste. If you're playing artifact creatures, they just get +1/+0 in haste. So that's kind of cool. And then it flips into Geode Grotto, which is a cave that taps for red. So we actually have a fair amount of land caves that aren't just tap lands. So I do think that maybe it is possible to get a cave deck to work, right? It's interesting. So if you have 4 more artifacts, you flip this, it ramps you. You can play an additional land the same turn and get more delicious stuff going on, right? Because it doesn't count as playing a land when this comes into play. And then we've got 2 and a red tap until end of turn. Target creature gains haste and gets +X/+0, where X is the number of artifacts you control. Okay, so then it kind of it does the same thing that it was doing before, and then curves out, activating only as a sorcery. Ugh, this is going to be nasty on a trampling dinosaur at 2, right? I mean, like, interesting. Okay, I'm going to give this one a B. I think that this one's doing enough that, like, as long as you're interested in the artifacts, like, I think this one feels it feels good. It feels good enough. Like, the black one was really impressive. The white one that finds a land was really impressive. The blue one that was the 1x for blue was the tap one, and maybe I'm a little bit low on that one, but these have all felt pretty decent. All right, Dread Maw's Ire. Got ourselves an uncommon instant for 1 red. Until end of turn, target attacking creature gets +2/+2 and gains trample. And whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, destroy target artifact that player controls. Ah, I like that. Okay, that is a good combat trick to play to know. +2/+2 is usually enough to swing combat into your favor. Sometimes even setting up a 2-for-1. And then this could be like a 2-for-1 or a 3-for-1 if the damage rolls over and you're able to destroy an artifact that your opponent has. So I like this one. I'm going to give this one a B. Enterprising Scallywag. Yeah, we got ourselves an uncommon Goblin Pirate for 2. At the beginning of your end step, if you descended this turn, create a treasure token. Nice. Okay, so the pirate synergy does seem to be... So descended, we saw a couple of cards in black that seemed particularly good for descended, and but we've also got pirate synergies. So I'm starting to feel like there's multiple colors instead of just strictly 2-color themes going on. Like Azorius, you could do a Mardu artifacts, or not Mardu, Jeskai, and do red, white, blue artifacts. And then similarly, I'm thinking that we can do like a black, red, blue descending pirate thing, right? So it'll be interesting to see how much crossover there is. But a 2/2 grizzly bear that can create a treasure token, I tend to rate these a little bit higher than I probably should, especially since we've seen some defensive stat blocks. But I really like a 2/2 for 2, so I'm going to start this one out with a B. Especially if you're in the descended, I think that's pretty decent. Maybe a C plus, right? Maybe a B is a little bit too high, but we're gonna start it out there, especially in red. A 2-drop, grizzly bears are pretty good in mono, in red when you're the aggro beat down. Geological Appraiser, we've got 2 double pip red for a uncommon human artificer with 3/2. Ooh, not a good stat block. When Geological Appraiser enters the battlefield, if you cast it, discover 3. So it's a built-in 2-for-1. So let's say if you hit a 2/2, like the grizzly bear above, it would be a 5/4 across 2 bodies for 4. But it could also hit a 1-drop. And if you hit a 1-drop, it's going to be a 4/3 for 4 with a double pip in red. I'm gonna give this one a C, but I'm feeling over and over again that I might be undervaluing the how good the discover mechanic actually is. All right, Gold Fury Strider. Got ourselves a 5-cost 3/5 uncommon artifact creature golem. So 3/5 with trample. Tap 2 untapped artifacts and or creatures you control. Target creature gets +2/+0 until end of turn. Activate only as a sorcery. Okay, so as long as you have the artifact fodder, this is a 5/5 trampler. But you need the artifacts to make it work. And you can do map tokens or treasure tokens. It might be pretty easy to make this reliably into a 5/5 for 5 with trample, which is pretty good. You can also make something else +2/+0 on like a flyer. You can do it multiple times. The only problem is you have to do it at sorcery speed. Yeah, that one's tricky to figure out how reliably you're going to have just a ton of artifacts hanging around. And it's an artifact itself. So you could combo this with that like +1/+0 and haste. So this could come down as a 4/5 haste trampler on 5, but that starts getting into the synergies. I'm gonna give this one a C. I think that a lot of times I like to think about the floor, and the floor is a 3/5 trampler when you have nothing else in play. So that's not particularly impressive. But I think the ceiling on that card is actually pretty decent. Alright. Hit the mother load. Got ourselves a 4 triple pip in red sorcery, rare sorcery. Wow. Okay. Discover 10. Hit a 1-drop on your Discover 10, right? If the discovered card's mana value is less than 10, create a number of tapped treasure tokens equal to the difference. So if you hit a 1, you get 9 treasure tokens. Imagine how bad that's going to feel, right? You're at 7 mana, you hit a 1-drop, you get 9 treasure tokens. Like, you better be doing something cool with those treasure tokens. Otherwise, this is not particularly good. But, you know, you hit a 10 drop for 7. Like, this is I feel like this is, I'm gonna give this one a D. This feels like a constructed build around, right? Like, if the only permanent in your deck is a 10 cost thing, then you can use this to go find it. And maybe, once again, maybe I'm underestimating the Discover 10 mechanic, but God, I think it would suck to cast this for 7, hit a 1 drop, and create 9 treasure, right? The floor is too low for me. Idol of the Deep King. Okay. Idol of the Deep King is a common, is a 2 cost, or 2 and a red for, so 3 cost artifact with flash. And when it enters the battlefield, it deals 2 damage to any target. Okay. So the instant speed shock of the set is 3 cost, and it leaves behind an artifact. And then you can use it to craft into Sovereign's Makwahuitl. No idea how to say that. When this artifact equipment enters the battlefield, attach it to target creature you control. Equipped creature gets +2/+0, and its equip cost is 2. Okay, so no Bane Splitter here, or Bone Splitter. It attaches for free, and then it's got a kind of high equipment cost. But enters the battlefield, deals 2 damage to any target. I'm going to give this one a C. I think as far as the other, like, we've seen this sort of thing at common in other colors, and if you're leaning heavily into the artifact thing, then you're going to want this. 3 costs to deal 2 damage to any target is okay. Would rather that cost 1 or 2. And then the craft feels somewhat unimpressive, but you can always use this to craft something else. Alrighty. Inti Cynical of the Sun. We got ourselves a rare legendary human knight. A 2/2 for 2. I like that already. Whenever you attack, you may discard a card. When you do, put a +1/+1 counter on target attacking creature. It gains trample until end of turn. So not only does it trigger Descended, but it's very aggressive. And then whenever you discard 1 or more cards, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card until your next end step. So gives you, I mean, that I like those that are, like, you can't play you don't have to worry about playing it this turn. So, and this is good because, like, the Descended thing where you're discarding cards out of your hand runs the risk of running out of gas. And so being able to discard a card but not actually be down a card because you can still play whatever was exiled is pretty decent. And can help you find additional lands. And, you know, a 3/3 Trampler on turn 3. So you play this as a 2/2 on turn 2, and then attack as a 3/3 Trampler on turn 3. That's some heat. I'm going to give this one a B. And maybe that one should be an A for... It's probably an A for the Descended. If you're really just synergizing off of the discard strategy, I could see that being one of the rares that you really want. Magmatic Galleon. Okay, so we got ourselves another vehicle. This one is a rare vehicle for 3 double pip red. 5/5. When Magmatic Galleon enters the battlefield, it deals 5 damage to target creature an opponent controls. So, ooh, I like this. I like this a lot. 5 damage on ETB. And then whenever 1 or more creatures your opponents control are dealt excess non-combat damage, create a treasure token. So if you nuke something with 4 toughness, you get a treasure token. And then it has a crew 2, which is not bad. If it was a creature that dealt 5 damage on ETB, it would be amazing, right? It would be an A. But because it's a vehicle, sometimes it can be problematic if you don't have enough to crew this, right? Oh, that's just a static ability. Whenever one or more creatures your opponents control are dealt excess non-combat damage, create a treasure token. You can do that with additional spells. So the more that you're into like a spell-heavy archetype where you're going to win through hitting with a crew, it's definitely not a C, right? Like I would play a 5 damage, 5 cost removal spell. That would be a C just on itself. The fact that it can create a treasure token and gives you something else afterwards, I think I'll give that one a B. How's your day going, Sims? I don't think Scryfall has all of the cards up yet, but we're doing our best with what we got. Why did that go... Wait. I don't think I... Oh, did they just update it? 291 cards? Okay, wait. Might need to go back. Okay, let's go back to the beginning and see. Okay. So, this is going to be a little bit chaotic for my set review on YouTube, but let's wind things back a little bit here. So, Scryfall just updated and actually got all of the cards that I was hoping was going to be here at the beginning of my stream. So, very good, very cool. Let's start. Okay, so Abuelo's Awakening. Okay, Abuelo's Awakening is a rare sorcery in white. And we've got X and 3 colorless and a white. Wow, expensive. Return target artifact or non-aura enchantment from your graveyard to the battlefield with X additional +1/+1 counters on it. It's a 1/1 spirit creature with flying in addition to its other types. So you can just do this as a 4 cost to return any artifact or enchantment from your graveyard to the battlefield. But if you tap X, then it's become... But it is a 1/1 spirit creature. I'm not excited about this one. If you have something really busted, but like if your graveyard's empty, it doesn't do anything, I'm gonna give this one a D. I think this one's got, you know, like that's got constructed vibes written all over it for me. Okay. Acrobatic Leap. Coming in at common, instant speed common. Okay, so we've got a combat trick. Target creature gets +1/+3 and gains flying until end of turn. Untap it. So we've seen Leaping Ambush was +1/+3 and gains reach. So this is like a white version of that. And Leaping Ambush turned out to be okay. I'll give this one a C. Usually I'm going to be looking for other things, but if I'm short on interaction, then, you know, combat tricks are decent. Better than nothing. Alright, Adaptive Gem Guard. We've got a Hill Giant, so we've got a 3/3 for 4 artifact creature gnome at common. Tap 2 untapped artifacts and or creatures you control. Put a +1/+1 counter on Adaptive Gem Guard. Activate only as a sorcery. Okay, well, so I don't mind this. I think I can get behind... Hill Giants tend to be awful, right? So if you don't have the artifacts to make this into a 4/4, but you can do it the turn that you play it, you can tap it itself. All you need is one other artifact. And then this threatens to become a 5/5 and then a 6/6 and a 7/7. So like that sort of thing can kind of get out of control. And it's not limited to doing it once per turn. So if you have 4 artifacts at the end of your opponent's turn, you can put 2 +1/+1 counters on it, and that's pretty good. I'm gonna give that one a C. If it wasn't a Hill Giant, it could be a contender. Alright. And then we've got Attentive Sunscribe. Attentive Sunscribe is a common 2/2 for 2 artifact creature gnome. Whenever Attentive Sunscribe becomes tapped, scry 1. Grizzly Bear with scry. And if you're using it to tap for other artifact stuff, that's pretty good. It's got artifact synergies. I'll give it a C. That's you know, like grizzly bear at common. Love it. All right, bat colony we've covered. Clay fired bricks we've covered. We haven't. This one's a new one. Cosmium Blast. Alright, Cosmium Blast is a instant at common for 1 and a white. It deals 4 damage to target attacking or blocking creature. I tend to like these a little bit more than I should. I like it that it's attacking or blocking instead of tapped, which tends to just be one way if you're the beatdown, right? If your opponent stops tapping their creatures, then this becomes removal that doesn't hit anything. But without crunching the numbers about how many creatures have 4 toughness or less, this tends to be decent removal, and I tend to like these cards. So I'm gonna give this one a B. This is what I always give these Bs, and I always end up being a little bit high on them, I think. But you know, instant speed removal. You can set up 2-for-1s with this by removing one of your opponent's blockers that they weren't anticipating to be gone, and then as long as you're attacking with a big creature, they're multiple blocking, right? All right, Dauntless we've covered. Destruction Hammer, that one's new. All right. All right. Deconstruction Hammer is a artifact equipment for 1 at common. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has tap 3, sacrifice Deconstruction Hammer, destroy target artifact or enchantment, and the equip cost is 1. So equipment that is an equipment cost of 1, I tend to like. Equip costs that are more than that, I feel like you can really end up sinking too much of your energy or your mana into that. But being able to give +1/+1 to something and then later destroy something, I'm going to give this one a C. Especially because we've seen a lot of artifacts and enchantments in the set. Deconstruction Hammer. I wonder if this is the common disenchant of the set. That would be kind of cool. All right, Dusk Rose we've covered. Envoy. Envoy of Oknek. Ahau. All right. We got ourselves a 3/3 for 3 that has a 5-cost mana sink to create a 1/1 colorless gnome artifact creature token. Expensive, but decent. I'll give this one a C. This is acceptable filler, right? I mean, I don't mind playing 3/3 for 3. It's much better than playing 3/3 for 4. And then late game, if you're doing nothing with your mana, you can at least go wide by creating an artifact creature token. All right, Fabrication Foundry we have covered, but not Family Reunion. Oh, come on, don't make this hard on me, computer. This is all right, we're doing our best here. Maybe I should have waited a day. All right, so Family Reunion is an instant speed white common for 1 and a white. Creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn, and creatures you control gain hexproof until end of turn. So I don't like the +1/+1. I think anthems or board pumps need to be at least +2, and then I don't really care about the toughness for them to be more interesting in actually finishing off your opponent. It can be a handy combat trick, though, and then being able to give things hexproof. We've seen this at 1 before, right? When it's mana cost 1, it tends to be pretty impressive. And I'm not sure I like it at 2. It's much harder to keep 2 mana open compared to 1. So I'm gonna go with D on this one. I'm gonna, yeah. I don't think that this is where I want to go. Sorry, family reunion. You get the D. All right, then we got Get Lost. We've done that one. All right, we've got the Glorifier of Suffering. All right, love the name. Glorifier of Suffering is a common 3/2 for 3, hate the stats. When Glorifier of Suffering enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice another creature or artifact. When you do, put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. Okay, well, I like it now. So generally, a lot of the artifacts are 1x and come into play, have an ETB, and then just leave an artifact left over. So if you can sacrifice an artifact like that, and get a +2/+2, then you're looking at playing a 5/4 for 3, and it can target itself, right? It doesn't have to target another creature. So it does work by itself as long as you have the 1 artifact. I like this. I'm going to give this one a B. Okay, Guardian of the Great Door. Covered that one. Helping Hand we've covered yesterday. Iron Paw, Aspirant. That one's new. Alright, so Iron Paw Aspirant is a 1/2 for 2, so I'd rather that be a 2/2, but when it enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Oh, okay. I like that. So it's a 2/3 for 2. And it can target itself, so at the very least it's a 2/3 for 2. That's defensive. I wonder, with all of these big butts, I think the pace of the set is kind of feeling like it might be a little slow for aggro. How's your day going, Merit Liege? Hope you're having a good Friday. Glad you could join me today on nerding out about the new set. Is this filler or is this better than filler? So we've seen a couple of cards that benefit off of creatures having higher power than their base power. So I like this one. I might go with a B, but like I will admit that I have a bias to, I tend to rate 2 drops higher than I should. All right. Kinjali's Dawn Runner, we covered that one. Flanker we covered. Horse Scribe we covered. Market Gnome we covered. Might of the Ancestors, that's a new one. Alright, Might of the Ancestors. After Market Gnome. Okay, uncommon. Enchantment for 2 and a white. And, oh, that makes more sense, Merit Liege. I was like, what? Done with work? Ready to play, let's go. Might of the Ancestors is 2 and a white. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature you control gets +2/+0 and gains Vigilance until end of turn. Okay, once again, this has synergies with the base power thing, but if you have an empty board, this is a 3 mana enchantment that does nothing. But +2/+0 in Vigilance is a decent reoccurring pump, right? It's just whether or not it's worth 3 mana. Instincts are telling me no. I'm going to avoid this one. I'm going to give this one a D until I get my ass kicked by it. Alright, we got Miner's Guidewing, Mischievous Pup, God. Okay. So, Oltec Archaeologists. Yeah, it could be good with flyers, right? It could be good for pushing damage with flyers, and we have seen like, so this, to go back real quick, we've seen a lot of flyers in the set. We've also seen there be some hints at the base power being important to boost. So if you do have a, like, it could be good in Azorius flyers. It could be good in the go wide strategy, just being able to make a 1/1 into a 3/1 makes it into more of an aggressive threat. But you do want to be very creature heavy with this, because if you have an empty board, it does nothing. And it does do something in the turn that it comes in. That's true. Maybe a D is too low. Maybe C is more fitting. But I'm going to go with my instinct and say that this is not the sort of thing that I like to do on turn 3. And if you get 2 of them, you give +4. That's a fair point. And you hit something like a 1/4, right? Like it gives some of the things that are like the 2/4 merfolk. You can make it into a more aggressive threat. That's true. So, and we've seen a little bit more in the booty on this one. So, Oltec Archaeologists is a 4/4 for 5 common human artificer scout. When it enters the battlefield, return target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand, or scry 3. Yeah, I'm gonna give this one a B, just because the scry 3, right? Like, I really like, like Archive Dragon. I really liked. I like 5-drops that help me find my other 5-drops. Yeah. The scry 3 is what makes me most excited. And then if you have like a busted artifact, right? Like if you hit the Bone Splitter at rare, if you got like a really crazy red equipment or something, like you could bring it back. There's enough artifact synergies that like recursion, a 4/4 that brings something back is decent, right? Mindslaver, yeah. And the scry 3 is like, I think scry 2 is equivalent to a card draw. So this is definitely one of the commons that's catching my attention here. So I'll give this one a B. We've got Oltec Cloud Guard, which we've covered. Autoclan Landmark. Okay, so Autoclan Arch is not called Autoclan Arch, it's called Autoclan Landmark. Alright, here we go. Petrify, okay, we got that one. Quicksand Whirlpool, that one's new. When you scry, it feels good, but not great. But when your opponent scries, it feels like getting punched. Yeah, that sounds about right, Merritt. Alright, Quicksand Whirlpool. Instant for 6. Wow. Okay, this spell costs 3 less to cast if it targets a tapped creature. So 3 cost instant speed exile target creature. And then if it's not tapped, you can still do this. Okay, I like this. I'm giving this one a B. Generally 6 cost exile something is like C. Like it's filler removal. You can usually do better than it. But if you can, and the time that your opponent is not tapping their creatures is when you are the one that's like pressuring your opponent. So that's a good place to be, right? So it helps you survive and turn the tides if you're getting just run over. So I like this Quicksand Whirlpool quite a bit. All right, Resplendent Angel we covered. Ruin Lurker Bat we covered. Sanguine Evangelist we covered. Soaring Sandwing is a new one. Yeah, this is one of the commons. How dare they release all of the commons as the last thing, right? Alright. Soaring Sandwing is a 3/5 flyer for 4 double pip white. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 3 life, and it's a plane cycler. Okay, so we do see a land cycling. We saw that one of these spoiled earlier in black, and the plane cycling, unlike in Lord of the Rings, which cost 1, this one costs 2, which is pretty standard. And interestingly, the black one also was double pip. So it's fixing, but like in Lord of the Rings, there was like, do you run trolls as a splash, right? Because you can just like go find your one swamp and then play the troll later, right? I think they're trying to avoid that in this one. And so the fact that both are double pit means that you're just doing this as fixing inside the deck that you already have. And in comparison to the one that we saw earlier, I'm less impressed with the 3/5 flyer. But gaining 3 life, you know, be okay. I'm going to give this one a C. I think this one is like, you know, you can use it. You can play it instead of a land. That's the benefit, right? If you have a clever way of recycling 6-drops, right? Like if you can reanimate, you plain cycle and then reanimate this in black-white, for example. But if you're not doing something like that, then you can do better than a 3/5 flyer that gains 3 life for 6 mana. Saw Blades we've covered. Thousand Moons Crackshot. That one's new. Unless it's just a rename. Alright. Thousand Moon Crackshot. Whenever Thousand Moons Crackshot attacks, you may pay 2 and a white when you do tap target creature. So we've got a Grizzly Bear, a 2/2 Grizzly Bear. I can't give a 2/2 Grizzly Bear a grade worse than a C. So the fact that like it later then can tap down your opponent is decent pressure, but usually you want to be building your board. That's an expensive activation, right? So if you have something that like makes your activated abilities cheaper, that could be beneficial. Did I cover it in barbecue sauce? Because these ribs I'm eating sure are. Nice. That sounds good. I actually am starving, so barbecue sauce on ribs sounds really good. I'm gonna give this one a C though. I do not underestimate the power of a 2/2 on 2. All right, we got a lot of Thousand Moons being revealed here. Thousand Moons Infantry. Thousand Moons Infantry is a 2/4 for 3. Okay, so we saw a 2/4 for 3 in blue as well. Untap Thousand Moons Infantry during each other player's untap step. Okay, so it does tap, it doesn't have vigilance, but it has pseudo-vigilance. Alright, I'm gonna give this one a C, and I'm gonna retroactively change the Merfolk grade, the 2/4 that in blue that I gave a D. I think that's too low. I think the 2/4 stat block is actually going to play in this set. It's feeling like there's a lot of big booties, so I'm going to come up a little bit on that one. All right, we've got Thousand Moons Smithy. We've covered that one. Tinker's Tote. That one's new. Alright, Tinker's Tote is a artifact for 2 and a white at common. When it enters the battlefield, create 2 1/1 colorless gnome artifact creature tokens. Oh, okay. And then later you can sacrifice it to gain 3 life. That's especially because there's a lot of stuff that benefits off of having multiple artifacts, right? So this is an artifact that creates 3 artifacts in 1. Hey, Cardinator. Hope you're having a good Friday. Especially because we've seen benefits for like tapping untapped artifacts that you control, and this seems to be a fairly synergistic card. If you're just playing it in white, would you be happy with paying 4 for 2 1/1s and 3 life? No. But if you were in an artifact heavy deck where you cared about 3 artifacts in 1 card, would you be happy about this card? Very. So I'm going to give this one a C, but I do think it's going to be a B in the artifact specific deck. Okay. Unstable Glyph Bridge we've covered. Vanguard of the Rose we've covered. Warden of the Inner Sky we covered. This is the one that was inappropriately named Dragon Runaway Controller, or Runway Controller. So this is the new name for that, but we did cover that one yesterday. So, all caught up on white. Now for blue. Covered this. Have not covered that. Okay. Ancestral Reminiscence. Whew. All right. Ancestral Reminiscence is sorcery for 4. Draw 3 cards, then discard a card. Okay, so divination is usually your standard of like, that's what I use to judge, right? Divination is a 3-cost blue sorcery that draws 2 cards. So this one is 1 more expensive to draw 3 cards and discard a card. Now, one of the things to keep in mind is that it is important to fill the graveyard. And the set, you get perks for Descend. Literally is a sift. Draw 3 cards and discard a card. Okay, so this is a reprint. How has Sift done in Draft in the past? I imagine not terribly well. It's okay, but like divination isn't something that like usually you can do better card draw than divination. But the set could be slow enough that Ancestral Reminiscence is like desirable. So I'm gonna give this one a D. I think that it goes up in value a little bit to like filler in if you are doing like the heavy Descend strategy. All right, Brackish Blunder. Yeah, exactly. Like if there's a spells build, then draw. But is it even really good in that? Because there might be better card draw other than the common. So usually there's something that like kind of like Into the Fey Court, right? Like that was pretty good in the spell decks, right? But draw 5 or draw 3 for 5. It wouldn't have surprised me if that card turned out to not be particularly good. Right? I think the 1/1 fairy really actually put the card over the top, and without the 1/1 fairy, I don't think it actually would have been playable. Brackish Blunder is a common instant for 1 and a blue. Return target creature to its owner's hand. If it was tapped, create a map token. Oh my. Okay, I like this. Bounce for 2 is great for tempo. There's definitely a pirate tempo deck. And if you're bouncing something that was tapped, you get a map token out of this. You can use it in response to somebody targeting your thing and to save its life. This is one of those cards that like I probably like too much. I'm going to give it a B, but it's not going to go in every single blue deck, right? Like if you're in a control deck, then this is not as good. But if you're in a tempo deck or an aggressive deck, then I want this card, and I'm definitely brainstorming on how do we make it kick ass, right? So Braided Net we've done, Chart of Course we've done, Cogwork Wrestler we've done, Confounding Riddler we've done, Council of Echoes, that one's new. Oh no, it's not. That's the flyer for 6. Yeah, okay, we've covered that one. Deeproot Pilgrimage, done that one. Okay, done that. Eaten by Piranhas. Cool. I am a piranha. I live in the Amazon. Alright, Eaten by Piranhas is an enchantment for 1 and a blue at uncommon. It has flash. Enchanted creature loses all abilities and is a black skeleton creature with base power and toughness 1. Wow, you can turn something into a skeleton. Well, because it has flash, it's pretty easy to block that with a 1/4 and have this kind of be 2-costed removal, right? I'm gonna give this one a B. Just because it has flash. Without flash, it would be a little bit less great because it's not removal. Do you really live in the Amazon, or do you just buy a lot of stuff from Amazon? I plead the fifth. Alright, we've got... Wait, where's Enigma? Oh, is the Enigma Jewel down on T inappropriately? Ay. Anyway, we covered this one yesterday. Hold momentarily. Okay. Eaten by Piranhas, the Enigma Jewel, the Ever-Flowing Well, Frilled Cave Worm, all good. Is Beckett Brass back in the set? I don't know. I don't know that one off the top of my head, I have to admit. Hermit Nautilus we covered, Hurl into History we covered, Inverted Iceberg we covered. Okay. Right, Sail Larcenist we did, Lodestone, Malcolm, Marauding Brinefang, that's new. Alright, Marauding Brinefang is a common, wow, 6/7 for 7 with Ward 3. And so this is the Island Cycler of the set. Very nice. Yeah, notably again, double pip. So they really want you to just be fixing for the color that you're already going to be in. As far as the power goes, I like this one a little bit more than the white one. I'm going to give this one a C though. Like a 7-drop is pretty expensive, but Ward 3 is pretty decent. Shadow Scythe, it's a blue dinosaur! Yeah. As far as big blue creatures go, this one's pretty nice. And controlling into a big 6/7 Ward 3, like that's a way to do it. It's gonna make it into some decks for sure, especially because you can improve the top end. You can cut a land for it, improve the top end. Like you can do some silly stuff. So, Merfolk Cave Diver. I have decided to move this grade to a C instead of a D. I do feel like the 2/4 set is the 2/4 tough. The 2/4 stat block is actually looking pretty decent as a 3-drop. So, Oaken Siren. Typing is hard, man. God, don't hurt yourself. Oaken Siren is a common. We've got a 1/2 flyer. Alright, take that, you 1/1 flyers. We got a 1/2 flyer with Vigilance. A lot of flying in blue and white. Siren Pirate taps for a blue, but you can only spend this mana to cast an artifact spell or activate an ability of an artifact source. So yeah, that's kind of cool though. There's this little bit of crossover between the colors, right? It does make me think that like you could do some Jeskai artifact stuff pretty easily. Definitely get some really strong. Yeah, think about that. Jeskai flyers with equipment, right? That's looking pretty decent. And then a 1/2. How do I feel about a 1/2 flying vigilance creature? I think that I'm going to be a little bit higher up on the higher toughness than I usually am, because this answers a lot of the 1/1 flyers in white and in black. So I'm going to give this one a C. Usually I wouldn't be that high for, like, you want a 2/1 flyer for 2, right? More than you want a 1/2. But I think in this set it's going to work out pretty well to be defensive. And then being able to tap it for the artifacts means that you're going to be playing this probably more in your blue-white craft mid-range deck than you are going to be in your like pirate blue-red tempo deck. But we'll see, right? Merit Leads, you like this one? Yeah, you give it a B. I think that's a pretty. I'm not that stoked for it. Like, flyers are cool, right? But I don't know if I'm that high on that one. All right, Deepest Epic we've covered. Puzzle Doors new. Okay. Aura's Puzzle Door is a 1-cost common artifact that has tap 1 colorless, tap it, sacrifice it, look at the top 2 cards of your library, put one of those cards into your hand and the other into your graveyard. Okay, well, it's there's a lot of artifact fodder, right? So some decks will just want a turn 1 artifact fodder. Vigilant, tap for a flash artifact. You wonder if you'll get your wish? Definitely, right? We've seen some flash artifacts we've seen some flash artifacts on Oak and Siren in the set. So being able to attack for 1, hold, block the 1/1 flyers, tap it for the flash artifacts, right? Like there's some cool synergies for sure. All right, Orazka Puzzle Door is a 1-cost artifact for 1, and we've seen a couple of artifacts in the set that give you like there are a couple of things in the set that benefit off of just having artifact fodder. The fact that this has to sacrifice itself to do the trick is kind of interesting. So it's better for the synergies where you're going to be like tapping your artifact for stuff, and then later you can use this to find additional value. The fact that it's card neutral and cycles for 2 is like decent enough. I'll give this one a C. All right, Out of Air. Out of Air is a 2 double pip blue common instant. The spell costs 2 less to cast if it targets a creature spell, and it's straight up a counter spell. Counter target spell. Oh man, I like that. I like that a lot. Because like if you're up against like a bunch of artifacts though, and they're not playing any creatures, then you got a 4-cost counter. Not the worst in the world, but certainly not the best. And then, but if they are playing creatures, you can just straight up counterspell their thing for 2. I like this. This feels like a good way to balance out just the straight double blue counterspell. It is going to be primarily for the mono blue strategies, but I love blue control, so I will be playing Out of Air for sure. I'm going to give this one a B. Yeah, and if you don't like if you don't like counter spells, I get it. It's fine. They're not everybody's thing. You have to have a specific plan to make counter spells work. I just find myself in those archetypes a fair amount. Pirate Hat. 1 and a blue for a common artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+1. It has whenever this creature attacks, not damages, when it attacks, draw a card, then discard a card. Okay. Equip Pirate 1, equip normally 2. So if you have to equip for 2, I don't like this. I don't like equip 2 generally. It's too expensive. It's too clunky. But if you are able to equip a pirate, I like it. Being able to give the +1/+1 and draw a card for the looting really helps your tempo strategy, which feels like the pirate thing to do. So if you are strictly in the pirate deck, I think that this is probably closer to a B. But I'm going to give it a C. It's a D if you're not in pirates whatsoever. So maybe I should give it a D and Generally, a card that is like a D overall, but is going to be a B somewhere, I tend to give a C, right? And that's partly what makes this difficult grading things. And maybe it's just it's all fun to, it's all for fun and speculation anyway. But I think that this one could be a B, specifically in the artifact deck. Yeah. Wait, are you saying the pirate hat you have to play strictly for tempo or counter spells? I think the pirate hat here it has to be in a tempo deck, right? Counter spells you can be in hard control, right? You can be playing out of air in a deck that has 2 win conditions and a whole bunch of answers for your opponent's stuff. All right, Relic's Roar. Looks like a pirate hat for nerds. Nice. Relic's Roar is a 1-cost common instant. Until end of turn, target artifact or creature becomes a dinosaur artifact creature with base power 4/3 in addition to its other types. Doesn't draw a card, but it's like, okay, so this is the 1-cost trick. You're gonna have to play around this one at the beginning of the set, right? People are not going to remember that Relic's Roar is a thing. You can make a map token into a 4/3 and block something for 1. That's gonna be decent, right? It's gonna be really good at the beginning, and then once people remember to play around Relic's Roar, it's gonna be a little less good. I'll give this a C. It's definitely going to be fun to catch people off guard at the beginning of the set, though. Okay, River Herald Scout. River Herald Scout is a 1/2 for 2 common merfolk scout. When it enters the battlefield, it explores. This is giving me a lot of flashbacks to Lord of the Rings, where the Simic deck was the Scry deck. Feels like the Simic deck is going to be the Merfolk Explore deck. And we haven't seen a whole lot of options to repeatedly, we haven't seen a whole lot of options to trigger Explore every turn. If you are in the deck that has the Explore mechanic, is Explore just better than Scry, though? In a vacuum. Because this is a 1/2 that either helps you find your land and continue to hit land 4, or it's a 2/3 for 2. I'm going to give it a C. It's possible the Explore thing is going to be a complete whiff, but for the time being, I think that this is fine. And you don't even necessarily need it to be in the Explorer synergy deck, right? I hope 2/3 for 2 is not the new thing, because I like Grizzly Bears, and if I have to go down on Grizzly Bears and give them a D, the phrasing of that sounds questionable at best, I'll be really sad. But the times they are changing, no doubt. Sage of Days. Got ourselves a common 3/2 for 3, hate that stat block. When it enters the battlefield, look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may put one of those cards back on top of your library, put the rest into your graveyard. After this age, another. Okay, so Surveil 3, sort of? Descend. I'm gonna give this a D. I'm not excited. Explorer's Gas, yeah. I think the Explorer is gonna work better than the Scry. Self-reflection we covered. Shipwreck Sentry we have not. Okay. Shipwreck Sentry is a 3/3 with Defender at common, human pirate. As long as an artifact entered the battlefield under your control this turn, Shipwreck Sentry can attack as though it didn't have Defender. Yeah, okay, tempo, right? As long as you're playing things that are creating artifacts every turn. You need creatures that are creating artifacts, though. Like the creatures, like the flyer that create, like the Winddrake that creates a map token, right? This sort of thing has some synergies. If you're not doing that, a 3/3 defender for 2 is alright. I'm going to give this one a C. But I do think there's going to be a deck, specifically the pirate deck, where you have the artifact synergies and you just have a really fast tempo deck, and then this is going to be a 3/3 for 2. And in that deck, I think this could be like a B. But overall, we'll give it a C. Okay, Sinuous we covered, Song we covered, Spyglass Siren we covered, Staunch we covered, Schooner we covered. On to the next one. Tidebinder. We covered that one. Unlucky Drop. That's new. Alright, Unlucky Drop. Sorry for the siren in the background. Guess we got a fire engine going down. So Unlucky Drop is a 3 and a blue for an instant. Target artifact or creature's owner puts it on top or bottom of their library. So we've seen this before, like misleading moats, right? I think the issue in Wilds of Eldraine was there wasn't a very good blue tempo deck. The blue tempo deck was supposed to be blue-white, and it just didn't come together as aggressive as the Boros and Rakdos aggro strategies did, right? I tend to really like these in tempo, though. And an Unlucky Drop, it's just a reprint. So I'm going to give this one a C. And, the other time that it works well is when you're up against mid-range, when you're like doing a ramp mid-range strategy and you're up against another mid-range strategy and you make them play like a 6-drop again, which was like where we saw misleading moats was the best in Wilds of Eldraine, was in Simic. But I do think this sort of card is better when you've like 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop, and now my next couple of turns are just interaction to seal out the game. And I've got good hopes that this is going to find a home in Pirates. Waterlogged Hulk we covered. Waterwind Scout we covered. All right, this one's new though. All right, we got Waylaying Pirates. Common. All right, when Waylaying Pirates enters the battlefield, if you control an artifact, tap target artifact or creature an opponent controls and put a stun counter on it. Yeah, see, this is what I'm talking about. This is like the pressure from the human pirates deck. I'm gonna give this one a C, but this one's like, I don't think you want to play this. I guess it's okay in like blue-white artifacts as well, but it's really going to shine in that tempo deck, right? Yeah, and I imagine the pirates are going to come with treasure attached, right? All right, here we go. Almost done with covering the new cards. Abyssal Gorestalker, we covered. Deepest Betrayal, we covered. Acolyte, we have not. Okay. Yeah, and maybe this whole trying to get ahead of it a day early was just way more problem than it's actually worth. What's up, Nico? Acolyte of Aklazotz is a 1/4 for 3 common vampire cleric. Sacrifice another creature or artifact. Each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So if this ability was something that you could do outside of a tap, right? Like if you could just sacrifice something to do this, then you could use that as a win condition. But being held to just doing it once a turn, you need some sort of recurring artifact engine to make this work, right? You need to be able to sacrifice and slowly win through attrition. So the set does feel a little bit slower than Wilds of Eldraine. It does feel like there's a lot more toughness compared to power. And I do think that you can just answer all of your opponent's plays, block everything that your opponent's doing, and then win through pinging them for 1 life and gaining 1 life. So that's I'm fine with giving this a C. If you compare it to the white common and the blue common, they both got 2/4s. So this ability is stronger than the Explorer trigger or the what was White's trigger? I don't remember what White's trigger was anymore. So that they decided to take the power down on this one, which is fine. It does mean that 3/2s can attack into you though, and you can't trade with them. But we can give this a C. You need to be doing the big booty plan though into mid range. But it will work in the sacrifice deck, right? Okay, another chance. That one's new. Alright, another chance. You may mill 2 cards, then return up to 2 creature cards from your graveyard to your hand for 3. Ooh, okay, so the Descend deck really loves getting cards into the graveyard, right? And maybe the Descended deck as well. Returning 2 cards from your graveyard to your hand is some pretty good mid-range stuff, right? So Dimir, with the Descend kind of, I'm going to outvalue you eventually, and then maybe Rakdos with the Descended. Generally, the aggro strategy doesn't really care about getting stuff back for 3, though, because you have to take time off of your pressure. So I think this is going to be a Dimir card. I'm going to give this one a D. I think that it's specifically only going to be really great in blue-black. Yeah, there are some big booty payoffs in this set for sure, Merritt. All right, Bitter Triumph. That one's new. Bitter Triumph is an uncommon. 2, as an additional cost to cast this spell, discard a card or pay 3 life, which, keep in mind, some archetypes want to do, right? So this is a good way to trigger Descended. And then also destroy target creature or planeswalker. Nice. Oh yeah. I like this. I like this a lot. So that's interesting. They did make it uncommon, right? I'm glad they didn't put this at common, because that would have just been insanity. If you think about it, though, if you were going to take 3 damage from that creature hitting you anyway, it's kind of just 2 cost instant speed removal where the damage still gets through. Like, you have to kill the creature after combat kind of style. But you can still set up 2-for-1s, and like I said, this set, I'm not too worried about discarding cards in this set. I think that the discard is going to be fine, so I'm going to give this one a B. It's nice, cheap black removal. Alright, Bloodletter we've covered, Flail we've covered, Bringer we covered, Mycoid we covered, Canonized in Blood we have not. Alright, so Canonized in Blood. At the beginning of your instep, if you descended this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. It's an uncommon enchantment for 2. At the beginning of your instep, if you descended this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. And then it has 5 double pip black, sacrifice Canonized in Blood, create a 4/3 white and black vampire demon creature token with flying. I think the Descendant is going to actually be difficult to do multiple turns. The second ability is really just icing on top of the cake, right? It gives you an option later in the game. Do you want to do the 7 to make a 4/3 flyer? And the answer is going to be most of the time no, right? I haven't seen a whole lot of Descended stuff, right? Like other than like the uncommon removal that we just looked at, and then there's also the uncommon equipment that allows you to discard to equip. So I think Descended is actually not going to occur that often. So I'm going to give this one a D. I don't think that this is. I don't think this is realistic to actually be able to trigger every single turn. And even if you like, it's only a +1/+1 counter each turn. So I mean, Lunarch Aspirin though, like that can add up, but like you'd have to be reliably doing Descended every single turn. And how do you have a hand to keep that going, right? So if this only hits for like +2/+2, it's a Grizzly Bear. If it hits for 3, then it's slightly better, you know. But being able to descend 3 times, I'm not sold on this. I'm gonna give this a D. And it's also, yeah, exactly. It's not Lunarch Aspirant because it's at instep and not pre-combat. Good point, Flutter. How's your day going? So, Corpses of the Lost we did. Dead Weight I covered just moments. This is gonna be really. I'm gonna have to ask like forgiveness for the chaos of the order of this because. I did it one day too soon, but because this is going to be chaos for people watching this later on YouTube, but it's going to be great. It's going to be great chaos. Okay, Deathcap Marionette, 1/1 Death Toucher at common for 2. When it enters the battlefield, you may mill 2 cards. Hell yeah! It helps you get Descend. It's a good defensive blocker for Descend. I like this. This is kind of the common enabler I was hoping to see, right? We haven't seen a lot of X1 hate at all, so I like this. I'm gonna give this a C. I think it might even be like a C+ or a B- in specific decks that really need that enabler to getting their graveyard full of stuff. Okay, Deep Goblin's Skull Taker. That one's got a great name. Oh no. I put these in the wrong spot. Bear with me again. Okay. So now we've got Deathcap Marionette. And then after that, we've got Deep Goblin Skull Taker. Okay, so Deep Goblin Skull Taker is a 2/2 for 3 at common with Menace. At the beginning of your instep, if you descended this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on Deep Goblin Skull Taker. Now, I like this sort of thing, right? Because if I descend 1 or 2 times, then I'm above average, right? And I think that if I do it just once, I'm okay. It is unfortunate that it's at the beginning of your instep. but it's got menace, which is one of my favorite keywords for the aggro strategy, right? So I think this one's going to be good filler. I'm going to give this one a C. Like, if you're in the Rakdos Descended deck, then seems okay. I think it's going to be hard to trigger it multiple times, though. All right. Defossilize Echo of Dust. That one's new. Okay. Echo of Dust is a common. It's a 2/2 for 2, so we're seeing a fair amount of Grizzly Bears, but then we also saw some 2/3s, right? Interesting. And this one is a 2/2 that if you have Descend 4, it gets +1/+1 and has lifelink. Alright, I'll give this one a C. I think that if you are reliably getting your Descend 4 relatively soon, this could be really good. Being able to play a 3/3 lifelinker for 2 is really hard to race, and is another thing that makes me feel like the set is not going to be particularly fast. Okay. Fanatical Offering, that one's new. Snooping Newsy. Yeah, Snooping Newsy was a sleeper. People kind of slept on that one at the beginning, right? And then it did well. Fanatical Offering is a 1 and a black for a common instant. As an additional cost to cast the spell, sacrifice an artifact or a creature, and you get to draw 2 cards and create a map token. Alright, so I sacrifice a map token to draw 2 cards at 2. That's not bad. And I get a map token in response. There's a deck that's going to want this. I'm going to give this one a C. I feel like that one's... it's okay, right? And is okay, this is the sort of thing that's like, this is why they made the arrest cost 2 instead of 3. Is that, like, there's a fair amount of stuff that feels pretty decent for sacrificing, right? Whether or not to destroy another creature or to draw. So, especially at common, that's going to make the enchantment kind of unplayable. That one's going to be... so I might have to go down on the white enchantment now that we've seen that. Fungal Fortitude. Isn't this card nuts if you get multiples, like Deadly Dispute was? I don't think it's at level of Deadly Dispute. Right? Deadly Dispute was pretty bonkers. But yeah, that's what I was saying, is like, as long as you already have the treasure token or what a previous map token from the last one you did or whatever, then you got to draw 2 for 2 at instant speed is particularly good for control, right? So I think this is giving me like Dimir vibes, especially because the Descend strategy gets payoffs from the creatures. Dispute made the treasure to sack to future disputes. Deadly Dispute just created a treasure, though. It didn't require you to sacrifice. Dispute? My brain just died. Deadly Dispute was just... oh no, okay, what am I thinking of? I'm thinking of a different one. Alright, so Deadly Dispute, as an additional cost, sacrifice an artifact or creature, draw 2 cards, and create a treasure token. So yeah, it's a reprint of Deadly Dispute. Why do I not remember Deadly Dispute? What set was Deadly Dispute in? No, it's starting to come back to me. It's starting to come back to me. Yeah, it's been a ways. It's been a ways back. AFR? Okay. It was okay in AFR, right? Like, if your opponent shoots at your dude, because it's instant speed, you can use this in response to your opponent's removal. Yeah, okay. Maybe C is too low, actually. Deadly Dispute turned out to be pretty okay in AFR, but I'm keeping it with a C. Let's go. All right, Fungal Fortitude. Fungal Fortitude is an enchantment for 2 with Flash. Enchanted creature gets +2/+0. When enchanted creature dies, return to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control. All right, I like this. Okay, so usually we see this as an instant, and we're seeing this as an enchantment with Flash because of Descended, right? Because of like Descend and Descended caring about permanence going into your graveyard more so than spells. So Fungal Fortitude allows you to do that trick, which tends to be okay-ish, right? Gives you +2/+0 instead of +1/+0 is enough that like I like that. And then the fact that like it triggers Descended and it triggers Descend, both of those are pretty spectacular. So I'm gonna give this one a C. I think this sort of thing is fun, right? I think this is cool that they went in this direction. All right, Gargantuan Leech we've covered. Grasping Shadows. That's a new one. Oh yeah, we've got a fair amount of black that should be coming up because we went from Gargantuan Leech all the way down to Preacher. It was like G to P, okay. Grasping Shadows. Uncommon. Grasping Shadows, we've got whenever a creature you control attacks alone, it gains Death Touch and Lifelink until end of turn. Put a Dread counter on Grasping Shadows. Then if there are 3 or more Dread counters on it, transform it. There's a keyword for describing when a creature attacks by itself. Death Touch and Lifelink can be interesting, especially like the inner Timmy in me is like, we just pair this with a 5/5 Trampler in green, and we give it Death Touch and Lifelink. Sounds great, right? But then it transforms into a cave. Okay, so this is the uncommon cave in black, and it taps for 1 black, and later has tap a swamp, tap it, remove a Dread counter from Shadow's Lair, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. Alright, so we've seen a couple of Phyrexian Arena effects in the set so far. I'm gonna give this one a D. There's gonna be a time when giving something Death Touch and Lifelink is spectacular. A lot of times, though, you're just gonna fall behind by playing an enchantment on 4 that's not developing the board. Even though it transforms into a land, it gives you additional value later, right? Like I'm gonna give it a D. I'm not trusting of these enchantments off the bat. So, Greedy Freebooter. All right. Greedy Freebooter is a 1/1 for 1 common human pirate. Okay, so pirates black-red? Wait, no, is pirates black-blue? Anyway, Greedy Freebooter, when it dies, scry 1 and create a treasure token. I'm gonna give this one a D. It is 2 sacrifice fodders in 1, but the Discover mechanic does not like 1-drops in the set, and that's not really giving me enough. I mean, it could ramp, but you need to kill it. Okay, so... Oh yeah, I'm gonna give this one a D. I'm not excited for that one. Join the Dead. Good name, strong name. I like it. And we've got target creature gets -5/-5 until end of turn for 1 double pip black at instant. And then if you're descended, the target creature gets -10/-10. Descend 4 for -10/-10. Well, I don't mind the target creature gets -5/-5 for 3. I'll give this one a B. I don't think you even need to descend. With what we've seen so far, there haven't been like most of the gods and such, right, have 5 toughness. So this is going to kill a bunch of the set. But yeah, you are going to need to be majority black, right? Like you're going to want, ideally, for you to play this on turn 3, which you won't usually, right? But like 1 double pit black, just for future reference, right? Needs 12 sources of black. So you're going to want to be in a mostly black deck. But even if you're going to play this on turn 5, which is probably more realistic, then you need, 10 sources of black. So it's reserved for when you're at least a 9-8 split in black's favor, right? But yeah, this seems like it's pretty... And it's instant speed, right? Especially at common, I would have thought they would have made this sorcery speed. But how do I rate most battle tricks? Combat tricks? Combat tricks I generally prefer... I prefer removal over combat tricks. And combat tricks I like if they're... It depends on the set, right? So if we have a lot of instant speed removal, then combat tricks go down in value because you can set yourself up for a 2-for-1, and you have to be really careful about what mana your opponent has available. But when there isn't a whole lot of really cheap answers, right? Like when most of the removal, at least like 1 and 2 cost removal, is sorcery speed, then combat tricks tend to do a little bit better. And they can be... There are certain archetypes, usually Gruul is the land of combat tricks, and they're okay, right? Like they're definitely... They can be really good. For example, like I loved Archon's Glory in Wilds of Eldraine. I thought that it was very easy to set up the bargain, that there were ways to get additional bargain benefits off of Archon's Glory, and giving something +2/+2 and flying and lifelink was certainly worth the 1 mana to cast it, right? So in general, though, it's worse than removal. I hope that answers your question. Join the dead. Done. All right. Malicious Eclipse. Ooh. What? I lost my space. Join the dead. Okay. Yeah. So all creatures get -2/-2 until end of turn. If a creature an opponent controls would die this turn, exile it instead. 3-cost uncommon Wrath. Oh boy. So yeah, this set's gonna be really slow. This set has we're gonna see a change in pace, I think, with the Lost Caverns of Ixalan, because we've seen several Wraths already, and then this one at uncommon means that you're going to be playing around this one a lot. And so if you're playing a bunch of creatures that have power 3 or power 4, which there are plenty of options, they don't hit very well, but you can completely make this like one-sided and wipe out your opponent's aggression. So I could be completely wrong, Flubob, but we've seen enough stats, and like this at uncommon is unusual, right? Usually this would be like a -1/-1 to the board. So giving it -2/-2 feels like this is gonna wipe out a lot of the aggression. I'm gonna give this a B. I think I'm gonna want this. It's gonna make my tempo pirates feel really sad. Then again, you hit me with double mind rot. You love it. Sometimes you gotta gamble, right? Gotta gamble on the double mind rot. Anyway, I hope you're having a wonderful Friday, Flubob. And I think this Malicious Eclipse is gonna be pretty gnarly. So. Malicious Malfunction was completely unreliable in Neo. That's true. But Neo was more interesting. Okay, that's a good point. Malicious Malfunction was kind of matchup specific though, because part of what's the start of the set started out with the 3/3 reach defender in green was just a lot to stop everything. And so this card is completely garbage if everyone's just going to play mid-range, right? But this is one of those defining cards that makes it that way, right? So like Malicious Malfunction would have done a lot better in Wilds of Eldraine, where you know it's going to completely destroy the board wipe, or it's going to be a 3-cost board wipe. You'd never play it in best of 1. Interesting. Okay, that's a fair thing to note, because we've seen a lot of defensive things that this doesn't hit. This might actually not be that good. But you haven't studied much about the set? Yeah. The reason why I think I'm going to be a little bit higher, and maybe a B is too high, right? But I think the reason why it's going to perform better than Malicious Malfunction is because we've seen a lot of cheap flyers. We've seen 1/1 flyers, we've seen 1/2 flyers. So like I'm really going to want this against the Azorius flyer strategy and artifacts. And there's definitely going to be some matchups where this sucks, though. I will give you that. And so if everybody is playing the big booty strategy, then this is going to be a terrible card. We'll see how it pairs up against the dinosaurs stat blocks too. But we've seen a fair amount of grizzly bears. I don't know. I'm gonna start this one off with a B. I also think that you can play with this relatively well on your own. Like you attack with a 1/4. You know, it blocks with something. They block with something with 3 toughness. You can then get it later. So I don't know. I'm gonna stick with my guns on a B on that one. But you're right. It's probably too high. All right, Mephitic Draught. I'll be sad if I attack with a 1/4 as a common line. Flubob, I think you might be disappointed with this set then, because like it's looking pretty heavy. It's looking like fat bottom girls are gonna reign supreme. Mephitic Draught, Mephitic. When it enters the battlefield or is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. So every single color we've covered so far has an artifact for 1x that has an ETB effect. So I think that partly why I'm a little bit wondering about the pace of the set is that I think a lot of people are just going to be playing an artifact on turn 2, which opens up the ability for something like Pirates to be like, aha, you fool, I'm going to punish you, and go for the tempo. So... Oh, Draught versus Draft. You're right. I think that's regional, though. I think I've heard it called both a Draught and a Draft, right? But the British call it Draft. I could be incorrect. It could always just be right to call it Draft, but you're right. That is how that crazy word is spelled, or is pronounced, at least in some places. So, but like I was saying, every color so far that we've looked at least in white, blue, and black, has a 1x artifact, and I think red does too. Maybe it's a 2x or 2 red artifact that deals the 2 damage, right? But when this one enters the battlefield or is put into a graveyard, so you get a double whammy. You draw a card and you lose 1 life. So you can draw 2? Yeah, when this comes into the battlefield, you draw a card, you lose 1 life, and then when it goes into a graveyard, you draw a card and lose 1 life. I like this. Yeah, I like this. Dirtling, but with a price, right? And we've seen a lot. We have seen a lot of draw a card, lose 1 life. Like an above average amount, for sure. So, that opens up possibilities, right? Like, if we can figure out, like, we've seen some lifelink, being able to turn that lifelink into card advantage is pretty awesome. I don't think I'm ready to give this one a B, but I'm close, because it is 2 cards but it's 2 cards at the price of 2 life, right? So I'm going to give this one a C. Strictly worse Wellspring, you think? Or I guess not you think, it just strictly is, right? Yeah, you lose. It's a Wellspring that makes you lose a life. Yeah, but Wellspring was busted, man. Some decks really liked Ichor Wellspring. So, all right, and then we made it to Preacher of the Schism, which we've covered. Primordial Gnawer, which we've covered. Queen's Bay Paladin, which we've covered. Spiketail, we've covered. Ray of Ruin. Oh wow, I like that. Assemble the Ray of Ruin. All right. So, Ray of Ruin is a common sorcery for 4 and a black. Exile target creature, vehicle, or non-basic lands. Scry 1. All right, I'll give this one a C. There's better removal in black, but like I always end up playing one of these copies at some point in time because I'm light on interaction and need an answer to like, well, what do I do when I get to this point, right? So. Shadow Scythe, that's an interesting point. Unless you want to lose life, there might be benefits to losing life, but I think it is strictly just a worst Ichor Wellspring. Yeah, so anyway, this common 5-cost black removal, we've seen this time and time again. This time we get a Scry and it exiles. I think that's better than sometimes we've seen before, but not enough for me to give this a B. Yeah, and it does hit non-basic lands, so like, whoa, land destroy in 2023. Heaven forbid. All right, we've got the Screaming Phantom. All right, Screaming Phantom is a 2/2 flyer for 3. So Wind Drakes. We have a blue Wind Drake and we have a black Wind Drake. When it attacks, mill a card. All right. I think Descend is going to need something like this. I think this is going to be one of the worst options, though. And I don't feel like black is heavily leaning into flying like white is, so I'm going to give this one a D. I think that there's better ways to mill yourself. But I know I'm going to end up playing it more than I would like to. And I like Wind Drakes, too. But like, you need to be doing a flying strategy, and black just doesn't have enough to support that. Because like, I gave the other Wind Drake a B, I think. Maybe I didn't. The one that creates a map token. I probably ended up giving it a C. But I gave it a better grade than a D. Alright, Souls of the Lost we've covered. Stalker, Starving Revenant. I think we've covered that one. Seems familiar. Yeah, we did that one yesterday. Stinging Cave Crawler we've done. Necromage we've done. Journal we've done. Terror Tide we've done. Tithing Blade, that's new. Alright. Close to getting back to where we were supposed to be already. Okay. Tithing Blade is a 1 and a black for an artifact. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent sacrifices a creature. Wow, so it's not even a one-sided edict, it's a double-sided edict. Oh no, I read that wrong. Each opponent sacrifices a creature, so it is an edict. Okay, so I like these. I like these artifacts for 2 that have like decent effects that leave an artifact behind. It's a commander-sided edict. Yes. And then at the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent... Oh yeah, so sorry, it's got craft for 4 and a black. Craft with creature. You have to sacrifice a creature. At the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent loses 1 life, and you gain 1 life. Oh, okay, win condition? Yeah, I'll give this a C. I think that... I like that. Especially in control, right? Sucks when you're up against a go wide strategy and there's a bunch of 1/1 tokens, which there's a fair amount in some of the archetypes. But if you're playing up against like green and they've only got 1 big creature, then that can hit really well. And then this just hits them for 1 each turn. And you gain a life. Now, sapping for 1 is nothing to scoff at. So actually, for the common crafts, I like this one a fair amount. A lot of times they're like way too expensive. I see this one happening more. Alright, and then we got Visage of Dread into the Dread Osteosaur. And then... oh, okay, here's a new one. Vito's Inquisitor. Common. Vito's Inquisitor is a hill giant for 4. Let me actually get that centered there. A 3/3 for 4. Vampire Knight. Has tap a black, sacrifice another creature or artifact, put a +1/+1 counter on Vito's Inquisitor. It gains menace until end of turn. So it permanently gets a +1/+1 counter. You can do it at instant speed. And it gets menace. Okay, I like this. In the sacrifice deck, Hill Giants are tempting me to play, because you just need to sacrifice like 1 treasure token or 1 little thing to have this be a 4/4 on 4 that gets menace. It's not bad. Let me give this one a C. Vito's Inquisitor has got my attention. I'll probably play some Hill Giants. All right, we made it back to red. Okay, so let's finish red, and then I'm going to take a break, because that was a lot. And we were kind of halfway through grading red before the great restart. So let's do red now. Okay, so we've got it through a good chunk of the set so far. So hopefully we'll be able to get this done in a timely manner. So we did a braid. Didn't do this. Okay. I was just off by like an hour. If I had just waited an hour, then I would have been perfectly on time for what I wanted to do. Okay, Ancestor's Aid. 1 in a red for an instant. Target creature gets +2/+0 and gains first strike until end of turn. Create a treasure token. So, Nico, this was one that you were talking about, right? Like this is a combat trick. And how do you rate a common combat trick like this, right? And generally, I would prefer to just strictly have removal, rather than giving my creature the +2/+0 in first strike, because if they destroy my creature, it's a 2-for-1, right? Whereas if I blow up their creature, it's just a 1-for-1, and that's all gravy. We do get a treasure token, but I'm a little bit hesitant to say that I like that. I'm a little hesitant to say that I like this. +2/+0 in first strike can be a good one. It will be one to definitely keep in mind that it exists. And it's +2. We've seen +1/+0 first strike not work out terribly well. But +2 gives me hope. But maybe that's because like they've upped the toughness on the creatures. So now this is like the equivalent of the +1/+0 first strike in previous sets. And if at the very least, if this all ends up being 2-for-1 and whatnot, you do get a treasure token out of it. I'm going to give it a C. I'm going to give it a C, and I think that's being very optimistic. We'll see. All right, Belligerent Yearling. Yeah, we covered that one. Bone Horde. We covered Brass Tunnel Grinder. We covered Brazen Blade Master. That one's new. Okay. Brazen Blade Master. Brazen Blade Master is a 2/3 for 3 Orc Pirate at common. When Brazen Blade Master attacks while you control 2 or more artifacts, it gets +2/+1 until end of turn. Hey, and you don't even need to do anything. You don't need to tap those artifacts or anything. So defensively, it's a 2/3, which is okay. It's not great. It's okay. But then when it attacks, you get a 4/4. Right, and that's what pirates want to be doing, man. They want to be attacking. 4/4 on 3. I like that. I like that enough. I'll give that one a C. You do need additional stuff to make it better. All right, then we got breaches. Let's see, did we do Burning Sun? No, Burning Sun is new. All right. Burning Sun Cavalry. Whenever Burning Sun Cavalry attacks or blocks while you control a dinosaur, Burning Sun Cavalry gets +1/+1 until end of turn. So we've got a Grizzly Bear with upside. We've got another Grizzly Bear with upside at common. But, you know, if you can reliably make this into Dino synergies, then it's a 3/3? Yeah, okay. Call me interested. I'll give that one a C as well. Calamitous Cave-In, covered that one earlier. Child of the Volcano, that one's new. Hey, is this set gonna come with a bonus sheet? Am I gonna have to review a bonus sheet as well? I might have to do that one at a later time. Child of the Volcano is a hill giant. It's a 3/3 for 4. Common, has a trample. At the beginning of your instep, if you descended this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on Child of the Volcano. Alright, I'm giving the hill giant C's, but if you're not doing the thing that the hill giant needs to be not a hill giant, then it probably shouldn't be a C. So these would be cards that I'd give like a C-. But I think that, like, if I'm gonna include this, I'm gonna include it in a deck that's gonna try to do the Descended thing, right? And then if I can do the Descended thing, a 4/4 Trampler on 4 is fine. But if you're not doing the thing, right? If you're not completing at least one of these clauses reliably, then I don't like them very much, right? Then I think they move from a C to a D. Hey, we're at the halfway mark. All right, Curator of Sun's Creation. We've done Daring Discovery. That one's new. All right, Daring Discovery is a 5-cost sorcery in red for 4 and a red. Up to 3 target creatures can't block this turn, and it has a Discover 4. Yeah, see, I don't have a lot of faith in this Discover thing actually being very good. Don't. Yeah, I think I'm going to give this a D. I don't want to pay 5 to make my creatures, you know, three creatures can't block this turn. Not really what I want to be doing. And yeah, I don't think the Discover mechanic's actually going to be that great, but I could be completely wrong. Here's the Bane Splitter. The Dire Flail seems ridiculous. Discover is Cascade, sort of, right? It's Cascade, but you don't have to play the card. So in theory, it's actually better than Cascade. And I don't have a whole lot of experience with Cascade other than a Modi. And Discover 4 is a little bit more interesting because that should be the majority of your deck than Discover 3. But I'm a little bit like the inconsistency. I think you need to be doing something specific with Discover to make it interesting Sims. I think that you need to be like trying to get a wide board. Yeah, exactly. So if it's Discover on a creature, then it's a 2-for-1, and you get multiple creatures in one card. I like that. If it's a spell that's giving you a creature, I like it a little bit less because it's not helping you go as wide, right? So I think Discover's biggest thing is like a Modi. When Discover's on a creature, I agree. It's better. Jousting device, we covered this one already as well. Yep. Dreadmaw's Ire, yep. Enterprising Scallywag. Okay, so we have three color themes in this one. So pirates are, I already covered this one too. I give this one a B. That might be too high, but Tali's Favor. All right. These are our first impressions after all. All right, we've got Tali's Favor. 2 of anything in red for an enchantment. Enchant creature you control. When Tali's Favor enters the battlefield, discover 3. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and has trample. See, I don't like this card. I don't. So, I get that it's like a 2 for 1. +1/+1 and trample's interesting on a big enough creature, but then later in the game you're not really getting that big of a payoff for hitting like a 1 or a 2 drop. So I'm just down on Discover overall. And maybe that's wrong, but I'm gonna give this one a D. I don't like it. I don't like it. Would I pay 3 for +1/+1 and trample? No. Would I care if that +1/+1 and trample came with a 2/2 Grizzly Bear? I guess it makes it sort of playable. The original Ixalan had Naya Dinos, Grixis Pirates, Orsov Vampires, and Simic Merfolk. Okay, and the first 2 could be played as any 2 of the Shard. Yeah. Okay, so they're doing that kind of again, it feels. I haven't gotten to green yet, but happy Friday, Isaiah. Happy to see you. It's a nod. Okay, gotcha. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna give this a D. Call me wrong. That's fine. We can have differences. It's good to have differences. It's one of the things that is, like part of the discovery process is what's really nice about limited in general, right? So I'm doing this for my own benefit and trying to entertain along the way. And I think I'm doing at least a C+ job on it. All right, so Goblin. All right, we haven't covered this. Goblin Tomb Raider. All right. There's got to be a clever name for this. What's a goblin name that's similar to Lara Croft, right? Someone's got this, right? All right, we've got a 1/2 for 1. As long as you control an artifact, Goblin Tomb Raider gets +1/+0 and has haste. Yeah, I love it. It's a 2/2 for 1 with haste. In this set, there's so many artifacts in every color. Kind of weird though that like turn 1 it's a 1/2 that doesn't have haste, which is when generally a 2/2 haster is best. Lorimog, nice. Thank you, Absentia. Absenta? HC? Absenta? I'll get your name eventually. Welcome to my little channel. So, okay, Discover makes this card worse. Right? You don't want 1-drops. It does take you need an artifact to make it into a 2/2, and then it has. Oh, yeah, right. All right. I'm gonna give this one. I'm gonna give this one the D. I don't think that this set is the set for 1-drops with the Discover mechanic and with all of the fatty blockers. I just don't think I'm gonna be personally leaning towards like the hyper aggressive curves where I enjoy 1-drops. Absinthe for English speakers? Alright. Absinthe I can do. Hope you're having a wonderful day. I've covered some of these already because there was an update on the list like midway through my review of Red. So we're going to be skipping some of these. And make yourself at home while I ramble about my first impressions on the Lost Caverns of Ixalan. And if you want to chime in, you're definitely more than welcome. I love discussing cards and why you think I'm completely wrong. Alright, Hotfoot Gnome is a 3-1 haste for 3. So we've seen several 3-1s for 3, at least in red and white. And we've seen a 1-4 for 2 in both white and blue. So 1-4 for 2 really sucks to follow up with a 3-1 for a 3-1 haste on 3. And then another target creature gains haste until end of turn. That's a decent enough ability, you know. Give your dragon, give your big old dinosaur haste. But like the stat block itself is pretty brutal, right? These 3-1s that like I don't like it. I don't like how it's matching up with the crap too. And like you can just block it with a 1/1 flyer, right? For 1. Feels bad, man. This has got enough of feel bad energy. I'm gonna give it the D. Alright, Idol we covered. I like these artifacts that do stuff. The flash artifacts and the non-flash artifacts that have interesting ETBs. It's kind of cool. Cynical of the Sun we covered. The Magmatic Galleon. Yeah, we covered that one. Alright, and we made it to the Red God. Here we go. We've got Oger, Xenil, Deepest Might. Yeah, exactly. The 3-1s in the set are going to be really bad against the Popeye, right? The gnome with the big old forearms. I have not seen the Green God, Isaiah. I'm getting closer to it, but I have not seen the Green God yet. It is soon. All right, so we get a 4/4 Trampler for 4. If a red source you control would deal an amount of non-combat damage less than Oger Oxonal's power to an opponent, the source deals damage equal to the god's power instead. When the god dies, return it to the battlefield tapped and transformed under its owner's control. Okay, so it makes all of your damage, your non-combat damage, at least 4. Or more if you pump the power. Yeah, Popeye dude is awesome. For 1 blue, too. Oh. I've been rambling for 2.5 hours straight, so I'm going to need to give my voice a break here at the end of Red. But I'm starting to get that like frog in my throat. Hey, thank you, Absinthe, for the follow. Thank you. Alright, Temple of Power is not a cave land. I think they should have made all of the god lands into cave lands. But anyway, it taps for red. Transport Temple of Power, activate only if red sources you control dealt 4 or more non-combat damage this turn, and only as a sorcery. Boo, that's going to be hard. I mean, like, if you play this with, like, like the Galleon or whatever, right? Like, you can do it, but, like, it's not going to be easy and limited. But I'm still happy about just having a 4/4 Trampler for 4 that makes all of my spells better. So... Their temple's above ground, but the whole thing is underground. They're already in a cave within a cave kind of thing. Yeah, and they do die into ramp, but tapped ramp, right? So when this dies, the next turn you get to ramp, which is good. You know, that's not bad. A 4/4 that dies into a land, you know, it's better than it just going to the graveyard. I'm gonna give this one a B. I'm not as impressed with this as the black one. The black one was pretty awesome. 5/5 flying lifelink for 5. Compared to 4/4 trampler for 4. I think I'll take the lifelink, thank you. But yeah, that's good enough. Alright, Panicked Altasaur. We got ourselves a 4/5 dinosaur for 5 with reach. Hey, there's an answer to some of the stupid flyers. And then it has tap, Panicked Altasaur deals 2 damage to each opponent. We had a card like this in March of the Machine, right? That had, like, almost exactly, that had reach, and then it would tap and it would deal 2 damage to an opponent or against a battle. Yeah, it would deal 4 damage with the god. That's a good point. No, it was a 4/5, wasn't it? Somebody better with card names. What was the thing that could tap to deal 2 damage to an opponent or to a battle? Javeliner. Thank you. Cheers. But it was a 5/4. Okay. Did it have reach? It did have reach, right? That card ended up being okay in some certain circumstances. Oh, it was in Streets of New Capenna. Anyway, the point being that this I find to be... I'll give this one a C. Nothing exciting, but like a 4/5 is a very good card generally on defense, especially with reach. And then the fact that you can tap this at the end of their turn to deal 2 damage. The 2 damage per turn is a decent enough clock. So, I like this. I like it for common, sure. But, how do you say your name there? Is it Frior? Welcome to my little community. We're rambling on about the Lost Caverns of Ixalan. Plundering Pirate is a 3/2 for 3. We've got like all of the typical... We've got all of the stat blocks going on right now. Thank you for the follow. Appreciate it. We've got all of the stat blocks in this set, right? We've got 2/2 Grizzly Bears. We've got 1/1 Flyers for 1. We have a ton of 3/2s for 3. We have Hill Giants. We have a 3/3 for 3, and then we also have Hill Giants with a 3/3 for 4. It doesn't really seem to be like... It just seems to be like a widespread on the stats. So, but we've definitely seen some booties that make the 3/2 feel pretty bad, right? So if you're playing a 3/2 on 3, they're playing a 2/4 at common at 3. You better really love that treasure token, right? Yeah, not to mention that all of the X2s are dying to deadweight, right? For sure, right? As well as the flash red artifact that deals 2 damage. So black and red, as usual, have some decent X2 hate. Yeah, but this does have a Raiders of the Lost Ark or Aladdin. There's a little bit of an Aladdin vibe, because the Cave of Wonders fills up with lava, right? After they grab the lamp. So there's a little bit of that going on, too. But I'm going to give this one a D. I'm not impressed with the 3/2 that just creates a treasure token. It does create a treasure token when it enters the battlefield, though, which I underestimated the Red Cat Thief, the 2/3 for 3 that created a treasure token. I gave that one a C, and it ended up being like better. Like it was like a B-, but part of that was because of how great the treasure token was to play your off-color adventures in Wilds of Eldraine. Yeah, so I'm going to double down, and I'm going to underestimate this one too. 100%. Next. 3/2 stat block is different than 2/3/2, right? Like 3/2 is 3/2 stat block I like less than 2/3. Alright, Poetic Ingenuity. We got ourselves a rare enchantment for 3. Whenever one or more dinosaurs you control attack, create that many treasure tokens. And then whenever you cast an artifact spell, Create a 3/1 red dinosaur creature token. This ability triggers only once each turn. Well, I don't like these sort of things. Yeah, it's a fun build around, sure, but like, it's not a turn 3 play, and it will be oh so commonly played as a turn 3 play, right? But like, you want to develop the board. I guess if you're going to follow it up with an artifact spell the following turn, it's okay as a turn 3 play, but really you're going to do this for later, right? I think this is a constructed card, yeah. I'm going to give this one a D. D does not mean unplayable. D just means take some effort. Yeah, if you have a turn 2 dino, it's okay. You play, you know, turn 2 dino makes it so that you get a treasure token. You're paying 3 to create 1 treasure token. It's a pretty low okay, like, bar for okay. But it's a fair point. If you're consistently attacking with dinos every turn, creating treasures every single time that you attack is pretty decent. But you do need to get a critical mass of dinosaurs, which tends to be in white. So, Rampaging Ceratops can't be blocked except for by 3 or more creatures. Alright, we get a 5/4 that has to be multiple blocked, bringing in the Mega Menace that we saw in Lord of the Rings from the Troll of Khazad-dûm. So the Mega Menace worked out pretty well in that set. And wait, see, what was the Troll? Was the Troll's stats was like a 5/3, right? Or was it a 6/4? Land cycling made that better too. But anyway, 3 or more creatures, that could be pretty good. Thank you, Isaiah. It was a 6/5. Okay, well, see, I've got perfect memory. 6/5. Mega Menace, though, I think is interesting, especially if you do have like a aggressive keep the board small plan where you're going to be playing cheap like black-red removal. They may not actually have that many creatures to block with the Mega Menace. Yeah. And the Troll definitely was pretty excellent. What's up, Jorbles? And Shadow Scythe. I'm gonna give this one a B. I'm gonna give this one a B. It gives me hope that like we're actually gonna be able to tempo push through all of the fat butts in the set. And the dinosaurs feels like it's gonna be relatively aggressive, but we haven't gotten to green yet. Yeah. Alright. And not to mention that, like, you do have that red combat trick to give +2/+0 in first strike, right? So, like, if you have Mega Menace and 3 people block you, kind of like giving Death Touch with Shelob's Ambush on the Troll, right? Like, if you have some way to punish them for the multiple block, then that's pretty awesome. This one was really good in Ikoria, okay. In the OG set. Rumbling Rock Slide is deals damage to target creature equal to the number of lands you control. Okay. 4 damage, sorcery speed that then scales up from there. Yeah, I mean, things have changed a little bit since the original Ikoria set, right? It's sorcery speed for 4. I think you can do better than this. Playable, but kind of clunky. Yeah, that feels like where we're at least nowadays, right? I'm gonna give it a C. It's kind of like the 5-cost black removal that exiles, right? Like, it's decent, not great. Killing big creatures was really important in the original Ikoria or Ixalan. What was IKO? Anyway, yeah. Killing the big creatures is really important. And there's a little bit of this going on in this set too, right? We've got the, yeah, in Ikoria. I had it right in the first place, and then my brain backpedaled on it. I wonder, it might be very mid-rangey and necessary to get through your opponent's big threats, right? Like, if the 2/4s and the 1/4s do a really good job of just gumming up the early game and there isn't enough tempo to actually get through it, then yeah, you're going to want to be playing Rumbling Rockslide to remove your opponent's 6/6 creature, and the game becomes more about outvaluing your opponent than it does about tempo and aggression, right? So there definitely is more of a defensive vibe in this one that kind of reminds me more of like Neon Dynasty, where I feel like there's some good defensive creatures early that are going to make aggressive strategies kind of suffer. So, but I've been wrong in the past, right? I mean, I said that Lord of the Rings black was the worst color, so I'm not always right. I don't claim to always be right, but that's the vibe that I'm getting from the set. All right. I thought Amass was going to make black single targeted removal bad. That was basically why I was down on black in Lord of the Rings, and oh boy was I wrong. What grade did I give Rockslide? A C. If I didn't actually finish my thought, I'm giving this one a C. It feels a lot like the 5-cost exile target creature in black. Good at removing a big creature. But I think I want different removal. All right, we got Saheeli's Lattice, which is a 1 and a red uncommon artifact. When it enters the battlefield, you may discard a card. If you do, draw 2 cards. So we got like Rummage +1. And then we've got Craft with 1 or more dinosaurs. I like this so far. I've liked all of these. All of these 2-cost artifacts. Sorry, the 1x artifacts. I'm like, let's do it, right? And then this turns into Mastercraft Raptor. Its power is equal to the total power of the exiled cards used to craft it. Nice. So don't sacrifice your dinosaurs that you have in play to make them only have 4 toughness, right? This is taking advantage of the fact that Craft can use dinosaurs from your graveyard. So you're getting decent rummage early on for 2, an artifact that you can use for synergy later, and then later you're turning this into a 5/4 or a 6/4 or whatever, an X4 with dinosaurs that have already died. So I think this is going to be pretty decent. I like this. I'm going to give this one a B. Tormenting Voice for Descend comes back as a hitter. Yeah. How's your day going? Pizza party time. Yeah. You could pitch a dino and then exile it later. That's true. You could get additional value. All right, this one is the one that I'm making into the clever girl meme. The flavor text just matches the clever girl. So we're gonna look forward to the clever girl meme involving Scythe Raptor at some point down the road. And I'm excited for this card. This was one that I bumped into that I think is awesome. I thought it was a common at first, but at an uncommon, you get a 4/3 for 3, which I liked that stat. I really liked it in Phyrexia All Will Be 1. Right? It's a very nice aggressive stat. And then whenever a player casts a spell, if it's not their turn, Scytheclaw Raptor deals 4 damage to them. So, if I'm playing big dumb green creatures, I don't want my opponent to counterspell it. And this punishes them for counterspelling it. It means I can't use my combat tricks and such on their turn. But like, if I'm aggressively attacking with dinosaurs, I don't know. I've got a good feeling about this one. I'm going to give this one a B. I think this is going to be a good clever girl for sure. Seismic Monstrosar. Monster meets dinosaur. Very good. 6/5 Trampler. So this is the land cycling in red. You get a 6/5 Trampler for 6. I like this one more than the white one. And you also can sacrifice a land to draw a card. Oh, actually, that might be a B. I think the other ones have been kind of filler, but I'm kind of excited about this one. Because, like, 6/5 Trampler for 6 is fine. You know, usually they're more expensive than what you're getting. We've seen that, like, sacrificing a land and drawing a card can work well in kind of like that when you need additional late game top deck value. And in a pinch, you can use this to smooth your land draws, right? So I'm gonna give this one a B. The other ones I felt like the top side of it wasn't good enough to justify giving it a B, but was like fine filler just because it plays so well on curve. And Saheeli's Lettuce. It works really well with Saheeli's Lettuce. Yeah. Is that what you're going to be calling it, Isaiah? Yeah, no, the dinosaurs feel good. And somebody mentioned in my Discord that they kind of screwed up the dinosaurs in Ikoria. So they're probably trying to not repeat that one. Probably trying to go through this time around and make sure that the dinos are actually good. And so we'll see when we get to the multicolored cards. That's always the most fun, right? The most fun I have, at least, is the multicolored cards. There is a -5/-5 for 1 black. Yeah. Yep. And it becomes a -10/-10 with Descend 8, I think. So, but that doesn't make me feel like, oh, okay, I can't do that now. There's always good removal for less in black, right? And at least it's double pit black. All right, Sunfire Torch. Equipped. We got a artifact equipment, a common artifact equipment for 1 red. Equipped creature gets +1/+0 and has whenever this creature attacks, you may sacrifice Sunfire Torch. When you do, this creature deals 2 damage to any target, and it has an equip 1. So pairs well with Death Touch because the creature deals the damage. Pairs well with Lifelink. Yeah, this is enough for me to be like, I'll give this a C. We've got artifact synergies in the set already. It's an equip cost of 1. And yeah, we've seen a couple of Death Touch creatures in black too that could take advantage of this equipment. All right, Sunshot Militia. Sunshot Militia is a 1/3 for 2 human soldier, common. Tap 2 untapped artifacts and or creatures you control. Sunshot Militia deals 1 damage to each opponent. Activate only as a sorcery. Alright, so this is kind of like your payoff to going wide into the Jeskai artifact thing. If you're going to be doing like, I think I like this the most in a very controlling blue-white build that then is using this to end. Yeah, I did, Isaiah. It's important to note that the creature deals the damage, which is why I said it works really well with Lifelink and Death Touch. But good to make sure that that's caught, because that's an important part, that the torch itself isn't dealing the 2 damage. It makes it better that the creature is doing it, in my opinion. Although it does mean that you can end up sacrificing the torch and then they kill the creature and it doesn't deal any damage. So, I mean, there's pros and cons, right? But like it pairs nicely with the Death Touch and Lifelink. But it's not true? Really? So this creature attacks, you sacrifice the Sunfire Torch. In response, your opponent plays removal and kills the creature. Mog Fanatic. Yeah. Oh, it's like, okay. But like you could fizzle exploit by killing the creature in response. Is damage on the stack specifically different? The creature deals the 2 damage though. Ability is on the stack. Wow, I would have thought that the creature... I thought... Okay, so I thought that if you removed a creature in response to this, that it wouldn't deal damage, right? I think it's on the timing of that. I think it's on the timing of that. So what we're discussing here is that when this ability would go on the stack, you attack with the creature, you sacrifice the Sunfire Torch, the ability goes on the stack, and then when it resolves, it needs a target creature, right? Oh, and it doesn't say target creature. It says this creature deals 2 damage to any target. So that probably doesn't fizzle, right? If it said when you do target creature deals 2 damage, or a quick, yeah, it's not great. It's not great wording. I'll have to look into that one and get back on exactly what is going on with this one. But if the creature is killed in response, sacrifice the Sunfire Torch and then somebody shoots your creature. Well, here's a question for you. So let's say it was a bite spell, right? So like if you use a bite spell and you target your creature to target another one, and then they kill the creature, that creature doesn't deal any damage, right? Your bite spell fizzles. Okay, so why is bite fight different than this? When it dies, its power is unknown. Okay, so since that one says creature's power, and this one specifies 2... Oh man, this is drumming up a lot of conversation here about what the ruling is on this. So we'll see. Yeah, this is where we need a judge, right? We've got a lot of experienced Magic players in my chat right now, and we're still a little bit unsure. Okay, Foray of Orcs in Lord of the Rings, when you killed the amassed army, Foray of Orcs still dealt damage. I've cast some doubt in you. Oh no. But in Lord of the Rings, wasn't that a mistake? Shouldn't the damage have fizzled from Foray of Orcs? Wasn't that something that people complained about later down the road? Was that Foray of Orcs shouldn't have dealt damage? Yeah, because if you shrunk it, it would do less damage. Yeah, I think originally it didn't though, Sims. Okay, we'll come back to this one. There's a big question mark about what happens when you kill the creature after sacrificing the torch, right? If your opponent kills the creature in response. I can see justification for it either way, right? Because the creature is dealing damage, but the creature is no longer there, so how can it deal damage? Whereas it's already going to deal 2 damage to any target. If this was like Mog Fanatic, and the torch was dealing the 2 damage, you may sacrifice Sunfire Torch, and this would deal 2 damage to any target. It wouldn't matter what you did, because it's already on the stack and dealing 2 damage. So, Mike, you're saying that the mistake was that it fizzled, when really it should have used the last known information. If you shrink it, it was the last known power. Okay. Hey, what's up, Nerdy Steve? I hope you're having a wonderful Friday. Happy belated birthday wishes. Saw you playing Baldur's Gate yesterday. And we're we're in need of a judge. If you of all the people who I trust the most, if you are to kill a creature in response to this, does it deal 2 damage? So you attack, you sacrifice the Sunfire Torch. Does it still deal the 2 damage if the creature is killed by instant speed removal by your opponent? The damage would go onto the stack, so there's no response to prevent it. That's certainly true if the torch was dealing the 2 damage. But because the creature is dealing the 2 damage, I'm not sure. Yes. Wait, to which one? We've spent like 15 minutes on this one card. The YouTube audience is gonna love this. It's so good. Okay, so it's prevented or not? You're 100% sure that there's no way to stop the damage once the creature attacks. Okay, we've got it in stone. Isaiah, you were correct. I'm sorry I cast doubt. Absinthe, you agree? Okay. Very good. You cannot fizzle this. Moving on with life. Oh, okay. You can counter the activated or triggered ability. There is a blue card that does that, by the way. There's a 3/2 flash that counters it. So outside of that, okay, we've got enough of a consensus on how the ruling works. You're welcome. So you don't have to find out you don't have to find out the hard way. All right, so back to this. We've got a 1/3 for 2 that does the thing. I'll give this a C. I think this is fine if, like, it's not going to be for every deck, right? But like, as long as you've got some Kessig Flame Breather aspect out of this, like, it's going to be okay, right? If you're doing the blue-red spells thing with artifacts, sounds great. Tectonic Hazard. All right, 1 red for a common sorcery, and it deals 1 damage to each opponent and each creature they control. Hey, okay, so we do have some X1 hate. I was wondering if we were going to see some more, and there's some board states where this would like actually be decent. There's some board states where this is going to do absolutely nothing. All right, I'm going to give this one a D. I'm starting to think now that the -2/-2 board thing is not going to be that great. I was just like in a Wilds of Eldraine mindset, so I might have to go back and change that one as well. If any of you are interested in my ramblings and grades, I do post all of them onto onto 17 lands, and then, you know, trying to be like Court of Calls. And then I also do an Excel spreadsheet that I post in my Discord. So we'll see. Things obviously change by the time that the set actually comes out, as we've had longer times to look at synergies and such. But I'm gonna give this one a D. I think there's not enough like 1 toughness in the set for 1 damage to be really solid, like there was in Wilds of Eldraine. Wilds of Eldraine had a lot of X1s. So I don't think that this set is looking as good, but I haven't looked at exactly how many X1s there are. You think it's a good sideboard card, but you don't want it to main deck it? Yeah. A lot of my sideboard cards get a D because of that very reason, right? They're not really good in best of 1, but they're like, there's a scenario where you're going to want to bring them in. Triumphant Chomp. Triumphant Chomp deals 2 damage to target creature, or 2 damage. Target creature equal to 2 or the greatest power among dinosaurs you control, whichever is greater. My brain really had a hard time with that one. So it deals damage. What deals how much damage? Guys, why is my brain not working? How much damage does this deal? It deals damage. Triumphant Chomp deals damage to target creature equal to 2 or the greatest power among dinosaurs you control. Thank you. My brain was like, this deals damage to 2 or the greatest power. Like, yeah, my brain died, guys. I need a break. Okay, so I mean, I've been doing this for 3 hours straight, man. Like, set reviews are always really long. So Triumphant Chomp deals 2 damage or the greatest power among dinosaurs you control, whichever is greater. So you've got a sorcery speed shock that can grow to be bigger. What's my biggest dino? Probably a 4/3 for 3. Scytheclaw Raptor. It's gonna be my bread. It's gonna be my pet card. I just know it already. Yeah, and then this deals 4 damage for 1. It's pretty good. Honestly, I like this. I'm gonna give it a C because it's sorcery speed. But I think it could be a lot better than a C in the right deck, right? Like, if you got Dino synergies, then bump this up to a B. But, like, I think just sorcery speed deal 2 seems to be decent, and is another card to add to the X2 hate. Yeah, could see you giving it a B for efficiency. For sure. I'm gonna treat it like it doesn't have the dinos, though. Yeah, the floor is 2 damage for 1 at sorcery speed. And the ratings, how do my ratings work? Yeah, you give that floor a C+. Yeah, I think we're all on the same page. Most of the time, we're going to play that card. That's what a C means. Does it mean I'm going to go into red when I open it up? And I'm like, yeah, I got it. No. That's what a B means. A means I'm going to ditch whatever plan I had before, and I'm going to swing into that color. Right? That's generally what they mean. So B means, like, I'm excited, this is a reason to be in that color. A means I'm really excited, and this is a reason to ditch to get into that color. C means I'm going to play it the majority of the time that I'm already in that color. And then D is like, alright, there are some times that I'm excited to play this. And then F is, I would rather have a land. Alright, Trumpeting Carnosaur. We've got ourselves a rare dino for 4 double red. Trample, when it enters the battlefield, discover 5. And then 2 and a red, discard Trumpeting Carnosaur. It deals 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker. Yeah, you can make this into, like... Okay, so removal in a pinch if you're in trouble. So the channel effect, right? Can you do that at instant speed? You can always discard at instant speed, right? Yeah, so like in a pinch, you can use this to save your butt. And then otherwise, you get a 7/6 Trampler, and the Discover 5 is like, how lucky are you feeling? Yeah, so... Yeah, and then exactly, if you're going to discard it, you can also use it to discard it for Fat Dino for craft. Exactly, right? Like if it was Sihili's lettuce. Yeah, you could get synergies off of it being in your graveyard. Not to mention, you've also got the Descended, which could be interesting. And then, like Sims was saying, I like the Discover on cards that are creatures. So the fact that this is 2 permanents coming into play for 6 seems pretty good. Yeah, it feels like you'd probably discard it. Yeah, like, well, because, you know, how often you're actually getting to turn 6, right? Well, the double Pippin red makes this a little bit of like, I hope I open this up and I'm already in red, or I open it up in pack 1, right? What I don't want to do is open this up in pack 2 and not have a single red card. But I don't think it's enough to be an A either. Well, maybe the Discover 5 is, actually. Alright, we'll give it an A. I would give this an A minus. Discover doesn't just cast permanents? What? Oh, wait, you can do... Yeah, no, spells. You cast any spell. Yeah. Oh. I've been thinking about that as it has to hit permanents, which is why I was thinking it's better to go wide. Alright, thank you, chat. Yeah, no, I might need to go back and look at Discover then, because if Discover is a free card draw, I could read that. I could read any of these cards as draw a card, but your card is going to be limited a little bit. We had this discussion yesterday too. I was screwing that up, where I was talking about like Discover isn't a draw. Yeah, you could get a 7/6 and a 5 mana kill spell. Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, I mean, but it also could be a 7/6 Trampler and a 2/2 Grizzly Bear, right? There's a little bit of an RNG factor with this sort of stuff. So I'm gonna give it an A. Of all of like I don't know how I feel about Discover 3, but I feel better about Discover 5, and maybe that's intuitively wrong. But that's where we're at. All right, Volatile Wanderglyph. When Volatile Wander, it's a 2/2 for 2 at common. When Volatile Wanderglyph becomes tapped, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. All right, so it's a Rummager. Yeah, sure. I'll give that one a C. I like these Grizzly Bears with upside. There's a lot. Or you don't put any mana. You don't put any one cost. What about this? What about this, Isaiah? You telling me you're not going to run Triumphant Chomp with Trumpeting Carnosaur? Wrong. Alright. Anyway, it would be a great one to hit, too, because you'd be like, alright, cool, I deal 6 damage removal for 1, right? Yeah. No, I'm just teasing. Word choice is not my strength. Which, once again, why am I streaming if that is the case? I like a challenge. Alright, Zoyo was nice. Zoyo was Justice. We get ourselves a 1 red instant. And the owner of target artifact or creature with mana value 1 or greater shuffles it into their library. Okay. Then that player discovers X, where X is its mana value. Is there a really uber expensive artifact in this? Thank you, Flubob. I'm not the only one that thought of Yo-Yo Ma when I read Zoyo Wa. I haven't gotten to the artifacts yet, so this is. I mean, we'll have to come back to this one. I'm not sure I'm stoked on this one. I'm gonna give this one a D, but Discover might be way better than I'm giving it credit, right? But like, you put an artifact or creature with a big ass mana value back into your library, and then you get a 2/2. Yeah, well, that's what we're wandering towards is green, right? And we've got a fair amount to cover, right? We got to get through green and the multicolored cards. So I've been talking for 3 hours straight, though, so I'm going to take a quick little break, grab some water, and use the restroom and such, and then we will cover green. So I will be right back.